Week 15 is here, and we have a phenomenal slate of games, many of which will determine the 1 seeds in the conference. Starting things off, though, we've got the Carolina Panthers hosting the Dallas Cowboys. Everyone will be tuning into this one at the 1 p.m. hour. In all seriousness, though, this is the one game in 23-24 that the Carolina Panthers are actually favored to win. And that doesn't shock me with how bad the Cowboys have been in the Cooper Rush era, with how apathetic their defense looks, with the issues they've had on the offensive line, with their run game's lack of production, and really, it just being the CeeDee Lamb show. This cannot shock you. However, I'm not feeling so confident about the Panthers. It's a weird spot to be in. They've competed with the Buccaneers, with the Eagles, and the Chiefs the past 3 weeks. 3 playoff teams, but this one's got me a little bit shaken, a little bit confused. I don't think they're going to go out there and blow the doors off. I think it's going to be another competitive game. And if push comes to shove, I trust CeeDee Lamb with the clutch more than I trust Xavier Legette. However, I don't like the Cowboys. I like Bryce Young. We support Carolina around here, so I am picking the Panthers, but I'm definitely a little bit concerned.
If you told Cowboys fans before the season, at this point in the year, the Panthers of all teams would be favored to beat them by 2.5 points, they'd be kicking, screaming, crying, complaining that it couldn't possibly be true. And you said of a lot of what is just facts. The Cowboys, all they have is CeeDee Lamb on the offensive side of the ball. Jake Ferguson, when healthy, has not really done anything this year. Here, there, one play here, one play there. Rico Dottle sometimes gets a little bit of something going, but the Cowboys, they don't have a lot going on. On defense, they're on practice squad players. Special teams, they're making mistakes. Last week, they invented a new way to lose the game to the Bengals. And the Panthers, they're playing well and at a high level. 3 playoff teams in a row, they nearly took down and beat with a significantly weaker roster. So I think at home this week, they deserve to be favored, and I think they will win.
Something to note about those 3 playoff teams, too. The Chiefs game is a little bit more back and forth, a somewhat even game. You see the Chiefs win that one, you say, okay. The Panthers lost to the Eagles and to the Buccaneers because someone on their team screwed up, whether that be the Chuba Hubbard in overtime in field goal range when all the Panthers needed was that kick, or the Xavier Legette drop of a touchdown inside 1 minute. This team's playing at a very high level. Still nervous about the game. Still know if I'm super confident. People have been letting themselves and the team down, but just gonna have to wait and see.
Headed to Cleveland, Chiefs taking on the Browns. I like watching Jameis Winston play just as much as the next guy. His electric plays are electric. He can pass the ball at a high level, but we also know he has a propensity to make some back-breaking mistakes. It's happened over the last 2 weeks, and they're playing a Chiefs team that simply does not make mistakes. When it comes to 2 minutes left in the half, when it comes to 2 minutes left in the game, they execute at an extremely high level, and they force teams into mistakes. And that's exactly what's going to happen this week. Jameis Winston makes too many mistakes. The Chiefs don't make any mistakes, and I expect the Chiefs to win.
The beauty of Jameis Winston is you just never know what you're going to get from him. Some people say, oh, he's going to make a ton of mistakes against the elite Chiefs secondary, against their high-end defense. Me, I'm a little bit more skeptical. I think J-Mo's going to pull this one out. I think he is only going to have 1 interception, which for Jameis, Bell, I'm trying to record something here, sweetheart. For Jameis is practically a Christmas miracle. I think this game's going to be very competitive. A slightly higher scoring affair than we're used to between the Chiefs and their opponents. High 20s, low 30s game. I think the Chiefs ultimately pull it out. But the devil magic will have to be weaponized again in this game. Whether it be a doinked field goal, a fumbled snap, or a blocked field goal, something is going to have to break their way, which is a good thing if you're an NFL fan, because it means the Chiefs are just burning through their good luck. By the time they get to the playoffs, Buffalo, Baltimore, Minnesota, they're going to smack them.
I'm feeling Jameis Winston throwing the ball off of one of his linemen's head, it being picked off and returned for 6.
We will put that down as a glaringly hot take. We will alter the background of this set if you get that prediction right. Anyway, Texans hosting the Dolphins. And all you need to know about this game for Miami is it is indoors in a warm weather state. Their offense is going to show up. Their tackle play has not been that bad this year. The interior, something to be desired, but the tackles going to match up very well to Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. Give Tua plenty of time in the pocket. Even if he does have to scramble, he's sneaky athletic. He's been moving around a little bit ever since he came back from injury. He's going to find Waddle. He's going to find Jonnu Smith. He's not going to find Odell anymore because he got cut. And he's going to find Tyreek Hill, which is going to lead to a whole lot of points. Offensively for the Texans, Their O-line is completely ravaged by injuries. They still have not been holding up well to the pass rush. They're in games they shouldn't be from a talent perspective, and I just have no faith they're going to be able to move the ball. I got the Dolphins going into Houston and winning this game in an offensive explosion from Miami.
I don't have that much faith in either of these teams heading into this game. Last game the Dolphins played in, it was a game that was way too close against the Jets. The Texans' most recent game, it was a not so great game against the Jaguars. Neither of these teams have been extremely hot this year. I'd say the Dolphins' offense between the two units has probably had the best games compared to what the Texans have had to offer. But I think coming off of a bye week for the Texans, D'Amico Ryans will be able to do enough to shut down that Dolphins offense. And I think, like we've seen a lot of times this season, the Texans will be able to eke out a victory.
I mean, it was. D'Amico Ryans gonna have his hand down there in the dirt on the inside next to Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter. And just throwing his hands up there at the Dolphins center. I don't think there's much he can do at this point. There is a void of talent across this Texans team thanks to injuries and poor roster construction, which quality coaching is just not going to be able to overcome. Let's also point out the fact Tua has been playing better than C.J. Stroud this year if you ignore the concussion game. He has been a far superior passer of the football than the so-called top 5 quarterback, heir apparent, greatest Ohio State player ever. He's been superior to him. So, in a quarterback battle, in an offensive battle, in a battle of schemes, I think McDaniel and the Dolphins are just better.
Well, some Ohio State fans claim Joe Burrow, so...
Well, good for the Ohio State fans. How many snaps did Joe Burrow play there? I get why the Ohio State fans have to claim these quarterbacks who transfer. They got to claim Quinn Ewers because Quinn Ewers is the only quarterback in the past 5 years from Ohio to actually beat Michigan. I get it. I understand why it's so bad for you guys, but you just got to accept it. You got to accept your whoopings from Michigan, and you got to accept your whooping from Tennessee in a few weeks.
Jets, Jaguars. The Jaguars handled the Titans last week. Mac Jones actually got the Jaguars to a victory, and the Jets, they jetted again. They lost in a spectacular way. They find ways to lose games. And in this one, they're headed to Jacksonville. They're not playing in New York. Aaron Rodgers and that offense really has not gotten things going all season long. But I just have to imagine there has to be one more game they win. They can't lose the rest of the games after firing Robert Saleh. And against this Jaguars team that does not have that much talent, they've struggled with a lot of injuries. Last week, you can chalk that up to a lot of Will Levis just playing poorly. I think the Jets win.
You're going to see Pro Bowl level effort on display from the star players in this game for both teams. Nobody wants to be there. It's probably going to rain in Florida this week. Everyone's going to be wet. Everyone's going to be miserable. No one is going to be giving 110% besides the fringe guys who are just holding on to their starting spots or their roster spots. It's going to be a bad game. You said, oh, the Jets can't possibly lose every single game since they fired Robert Saleh. Why can't they? That's like exactly what they could do. That's such a Jets thing to happen, to just lose out. I believe in them. They've got the ability to do that. They're built different. As for Jacksonville, it's Mac Jones. It's a hard game to pick, I gotta be honest. I sit here and I look at it, I look at my notes, I realize I didn't pick a winner just because we're the losers. We, the viewing audience at home, have already lost by engaging in this game. I will say the Jets, by virtue of the fact Aaron Rodgers has given some spicy media quotes and generally he plays well after giving those suckers out. But man, this is a stinker. This is a stinker indeed. Speaking of stinkers, the New Orleans Saints are hosting the Washington Commanders. And Dan Quinn and company have to be feeling a little shell-shocked, a little rattled. They've watched Jaden Daniels' Rookie of the Year case slowly slip away from them. They've watched the losses continue to pile up. And now they may be fighting for a playoff spot. If things don't break their way, they could fall all the way out of the playoffs. A sharp turn from where they were at, where they were riding the highs early in the year. Now they're in the lows. Comes to the territory of the NFL. I think they bounce back into Saints. I think the Saints offense is super one-dimensional right now. I think they are starting Jake Haener, which is not a recipe for success. And defensively, you leave anyone out there on the field for as long as Haener is going to leave the Saints defense out, they're going to get lit up and cooked. Saints defense isn't talented enough to stop the Commanders if they're clicking to begin with. After 5 straight 3-and-outs, it's going to get rough. B-Rob's playing this week. The running back, the backfield's looking a little bit healthier. Terry McLaurin should have a big game, given how talentless that Saints secondary is. And I got the Commanders pulling off a big win. Oh, Marshawn Lattimore revenge game, too. I got a good feeling about that.
Derek Carr's hurt. Chris Olave's been out for a few games. Rashid Shaheed has been out the majority of the season. Taysom Hill done for the year with a torn ACL. The Saints have none of their key offensive players. The only players they have left that would get playing time on other teams are Jawan Johnson and Alvin Kamara. They don't really have anything left at their skill positions, whether it's Jake Haener or Spencer Rattler, whoever's starting at quarterback, whoever gets playing time this game is not going to be enough to take down a pretty well-coached Commanders team, and I think this is a game where the Commanders reassert themselves as a small threat to win a playoff game, and I think they win big.
It's all about matchup for the Commanders. Jaden Daniels presumably will be able to get hot again. He's slowly getting better. The rib injury definitely slowed him down, but I think by playoff time, he'll be able to get out of the pocket and move like he was moving earlier in the year. But we both got washed in this game. Tell me about the Giants.
Ravens, Giants, we don't need to waste time on this one. The Giants defense, it's bad. They have one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. The Ravens have one of the best rushing attacks in the NFL. Dexter Lawrence, he's done for the year. He's not there on the interior. Drew Lock, he's the Giants quarterback. Offensive line, pathetic. The Ravens are favored by minus 1,500 for a reason. The Ravens are winning.
You bet $1 on this game for the Ravens to win. How much do you get if they win? What was the exact number?
7 cents.
7 cents. You are going to come up big. You win, 4 more of those bets, 3-4 more of those bets, you can buy yourself a gumball. The Giants are not winning this game. As much as I would like them to pull off a miraculous upset, be the only NFC team to beat Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, it's still the Giants right now and Daniel Jones, which is a funny stat. It's just not happening. If you saw the article, you know they went 0 for 17 in red zone this week in practice, including a 0 for 4 performance against nobody, against the air on defense. This is a dysfunctional team. Everybody's getting fired. No one should retain their starting job besides Tyrone Tracy and Malik Neighbors. And what more needs to be said? Titans taking on the Bengals. And the weakness of this Bengals offense, if it has one, is the interior of their offensive line. They get Chase Brown going outside the tackles. They find ways for him to win with his speed on the perimeter, but inside, not that strong. Devondre Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons, best 2 defensive tackles. Not that far. The best defensive tackle duo in football. They should be able to disrupt the Bengals offense a little bit, particularly in the passing game. Unfortunately, no one in this Titans secondary can cover Jamar Chase for long periods of time. It's going to be a rough day to be a Titans fan watching him go up and down the field, solidifying that receiving yards milestone this year. He's going to have a good one. Offensively, I think Will Levis will be able to perform fine against this Bengals defense. The O-line was pathetic, so I expect Trey Hendrickson last week against the Jaguars, pathetic. I expect Trey Hendrickson to have a big game, but not going to be able to do enough. Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, just too talented, just too gifted. Will Levis fighting with water pistols against the bazooka. Sad.
I will not be swindled into it again. The chicanery, tomfoolery of this Titans offense, they convinced me after a couple solid games to pick them to win over the last 2 weeks. I was wrong in both of them. I'm not going to pick the Titans to win one more game this season. Will Levis isn't good. Their offense isn't good. Their coaching staff is not good. And the Bengals, they don't have a defense, but they have an offense that can air it out to Jamar Chase. They're leading the NFL in passing yards for a reason. You mentioned they're weak at secondary. They're going to win by at least 2 scores.
So you don't have them in the rematch against the Titans. You're not feeling good now that Levis had a game to process Jacksonville's defense. You don't think they're going to win that one. No faith. Shame.
Patriots, Cardinals, headed to Arizona. Patriots coming off of a bye week. Cardinals coming off of a few losses in a row. They have not looked good. But the way you put it in our reactions to the last game, this Cardinals team, they have to win a couple more eventually because while they're incredibly inconsistent, they're consistently inconsistent. They win a few in a row, they lose a few in a row. They're playing a Patriots team that is definitely less talented than them. I think Kyler Murray gets it going a little bit more than he has over the previous few weeks, enough to at least win this game. And I think the Cardinals crawl back into the NFC West race.
The Patriots have entered the point of the year where they're not quite a bottom feeder. They're talented enough. I think they can beat the Jaguars, the Titans of the world, but I'm not picking them to beat anybody else. Drake May has regressed a little bit from the hot start he got off to. He's still performing at a high level, still having 3 or 4 plays a game, which may say, whoa, I am glad we drafted him. Defense, still well coached, but devoid of talent. Pass rush, just not there. Secondary can only hold up so long. So I'm also going the Cardinals. Better team, should just kind of ground and pound the Patriots into dirt with James Conner. Defensively, I think they give May enough confusing looks to get 1 or 2 turnovers out of them. At the very least, keep the offense off schedule for New England, which is the only way they have a chance of winning this game. Stay consistent. Not happening. Cardinals are also winning. On to a game I cannot wait to talk about. The Colts taking on the Denver Broncos at Mile High Stadium. And you may recall earlier in the year, Anthony Richardson pulled himself out of a game because he was too tired to keep going. Some would say that's going to be an issue a mile up in the air at the Broncos' home turf, but I don't believe that. I believe that time off he got on the bench due to his injury, due to whatever, has been enough for him to rest up for the remainder of the season. He's going to be bursting with energy to take on this Broncos defense. And Sean Payton and his defensive coaching staff can only do so much because you cannot coach against Anthony Richardson. Richardson is either going to beat you himself or he's going to lose the Colts the game. He is impossible to stop. Some would say to his own detriment. He is going to have a good game in Denver. He is going to give you a crisp 200 through the air on, let's say, 17 for 32, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, on the ground, 85 yards, 2 touchdowns, big game. Jonathan Taylor also gets involved, crushing the Broncos' front seven, rolling over them, getting that run game truly established. Then you put Bo Nix in a high-pressure situation against the defense, which is well-coached, against some talented cats in that front seven, and he's going to crumble. You know he's going to crumble. You know in your heart, Broncos fans, that Bo Nix cannot stand up to the heat of the Colts pass rush. He is worried about his fellow horse-themed team. He ain't ready for this. The Broncos offense lays an egg. Anthony Richardson does enough to get the Colts a win, reinserts them back in the playoff race, and stops their season from being over.
Your hate of Bo Nix and this Broncos team is going to be the reason you get more games wrong than me this year. The Broncos, they're not that bad of a team. They're a solid team in the NFL. Bo Nix has been very solid this year. He's able to spread the ball out to his wide receiver talent. Their defense has been very good. And this Colts team, while I like Anthony Richardson, especially since he's come back from that benching in favor of Joe Flacco, he has been playing really well. They've won 2 of their 3 last games, but this Colts defense just is not as good as this Broncos defense. And you spoke to it. You think for some reason it's not going to affect the Colts, but they're playing in Mile High Stadium. It is a home game for the Broncos, which the Broncos are more used to. They play more games there than the Colts do, and the Broncos, they're going to win this one.
Do you really need to explain to the audience that the Broncos are going to play more games in Denver than the visiting Indianapolis Colts?
Clearly you don't understand.
I think I understand perfectly fine. I addressed it. You were not ready to hear that answer. Your mind was blown. You were mentally shattered, and you can move on and talk about the Lions taking on the Bills.
The marquee matchup of the week, Detroit taking on Buffalo. And a lot of people, when they are picking who's going to win this game, they're going to take a look at the Bills game last week, the fact that the Rams passed it up and down the field on them, and they're going to pick the Lions comfortably. They say if the Rams are able to do that, the Lions are going to be able to do that with the strength of their run game, with their ability to spread it out to their receivers. And while I think they, of course, will get things going, Jahmyr Gibbs will have a play here and there. Amon-Ra St. Brown will have a big play. I think this week, Josh Allen's going to put the Superman cape on from the start of the game. The Bills' offense, which is extremely good, is going to take advantage of a depleted Lions secondary and Lions defense, and I think the Bills go into Detroit and hand them their second loss.
The fact this Lions defense has not been statistically the worst in football over the past month is a testament to how good of a coach Aaron Glenn has been. They are devoid of talent on that side of the ball. They've been ravaged by injuries defensively. They're just not the same unit, which was rolling into the year. Sure, the Zadarius Smith trade kind of helps, but we know how he plays towards the end of the season. This unit is struggling. And if you want to go talent for talent, Josh Allen is absolutely going to win that battle against this Lions defense. The only person who can hang with him in that field is Brian Branch, and he's going to have his hands full covering Khalil Shakir, covering Keon Coleman, covering Amari Cooper, covering Dawson Knox, covering Dalton Kincaid. He's got a lot of things to worry about besides a 250-pound quarterback barreling at him 20 yards downfield. The Lions' only hope of stopping this Bills offense is Kirby Joseph taking out Josh Allen's kneecap, which admittedly is in play for Kirby Joseph, the dirtbag that he is. Offensively for the Lions, they are going to move the ball. They're going to run it well. We saw Derrick Henry rampage against this Bills defense earlier in the year. I expect the combination of Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery to have a similar impact. but I just don't know if Goff is going to be able to quite keep up with Allen. When he finds himself matched up against a superior quarterback in a high-stakes game, one which could very well be for the first-round bye, he's going to get a little bit nervous. He's going to start shaking in his boots. Dan Campbell going to go for it on 4th and 4, going to fail, and then everything just falls apart offensively for the Lions that night. I got the Bills winning, pulling out the upset on the road, beating the Lions, putting them back down in the playoff hunt, not in the playoff, in the hunt for the 1 seed, taking them off their pedestal in the NFC. It just means more in Buffalo. Chargers hosting the Buccaneers, unless you want to respond to that.
I mean, we agree. You agree with me. You know I'm right.
Chargers hosting the Buccaneers. And this Buccaneers team's kind of waning for me. I know their record. I know they've reinserted themselves as the top team in the NFC South. I'm not buying it. They are the best team in a terrible division. That doesn't move me. The Chargers, second best team in a much more talented, much deeper division. Defensively, they're going to strangle Baker Mayfield. Bucky Irving is not playing, so the burden of the bell cow back is going to fall on Rachaad White. He is not going to be able to live up to that burden like he has not lived up to it in years past. Mike Evans is going to generally be neutralized due to the amount of coverage and schemes he is going to have thrown his way by the defensive genius in LA. And offensively for the Chargers, Ladd McConkey may be back. That's still up in the air. Gus Edwards able to keep things close against the Chiefs, pounded out on the ground. Quentin Johnson bounced back a little bit, had a much better game last week than he did in previous weeks. Very good tight end play from the Chargers, and I think they're able to do enough. Going to be a low-scoring game, as all Chargers games are, but I think they prevail.
I disagree. I think the Chargers, well, it's a fact that they're very banged up. Justin Herbert dealing with a couple of injuries. Will Dissly banged up with an injury. We know J.K. Dobbins is done for the year. Ladd McConkey banged up. Will he even play in this one? Joey Bosa banged up with an injury. So some of the Chargers' best players, their biggest key players, they're heading into this game with an injury. You mentioned that Bucky Irving is not playing, but they still have Baker Mayfield. They still have Mike Evans out on the field. Rachaad White, while I am not necessarily the biggest fan of his, I don't think he's one of the better running backs in the NFL. He's enough to get the job done, and I think this will be a very close game, likely a low-scoring game, as you already mentioned, but I think in lieu of the Chargers dealing with so many injuries, the Buccaneers are going to be able to do enough to win the game.
Justin Herbert is made out of steel and plexiglass, man. He is going to be just fine battling through those little ticky-tack injuries. They're not going to phase him. The only thing that can phase him is Vita Vea jumping directly on his knee. It's not going to happen. He's too mobile. He's too good. He's built different, and he's getting the Chargers the win.
Steelers, Eagles. These teams are two sides of the same coin. Phenomenal defense, great run game. Off the run game is their pass game. And in this one, I think the Eagles win just because they're better in both areas of these teams' respective strengths. The Saquon Barkley is on pace to break the single-season rushing yards record. Jalen Hurts runs the ball at a more effective level than Russell Wilson does. Their defense is leading the NFL. The Steelers, they may not have George Pickens in this one. We saw their offense struggle last week without him. And against a defense that has a very good secondary, if you don't have your number one elite wide receiver, it is going to be hard for Russell Wilson to push the ball down the field like we've seen him do at a high level this season against poorer defenses when he has George Pickens on the field. So I think that is a key injury in this game that is greatly going to affect the outcome. The whole A.J. Brown drama is not going to be that much of effect in this game. I think the Eagles are winning.
Some say two sides of the same coin. I say two cheeks of the same ass. Neither of these teams are as good as their record indicates. Can they be contenders? Yes, but they do not belong among the top tiers in the NFL. I think the Eagles are incredibly talented defensively. I think their secondary is great, but that secondary has not faced a mobile quarterback and a dual-headed monster in the quarterback position, which the Steelers present. Russell Wilson is going to get out and active of this pocket. He's going to have a big game on the ground. And if he can't, guess what, Justin Fields? 2-4 as a starter? 4-2 as a starter? You're back in there. Get him, pal. The Steelers' rushing attack is going to be centered around the quarterback position in this game. I think they will excel at that. Their offense is going to move the ball up and down the field thanks to quarterback runs. Najee Harris will do his part. George Pickens, if he plays, will do his part. But I do think the ground game is going to be greatly bolstered by Russ and Fields. Looking at the Eagles' offense, that drama is going to matter. I get people trying to voice stuff out in the open, get some easing of tension through the media. It's not going to work. A.J. Brown, he's a wide receiver. He's the archetypical diva wide receiver. Kind of forced his way out of Tennessee, not happy there. Now, not happy in one of the winningest teams in football. How can you please this guy? he is going to cause a scene if he is not targeted multiple times in the first quarter and if those targets are not completed, which the Steelers secondary with Porter and Fitzpatrick is not going to be easy. I think the Steelers defense flusters the Eagles. I think Saquon gets knocked off his rushing pace unless he gets force-fed 40 carries because the ball is just not moving through the air. I think Pittsburgh picks up a rough and rowdy win on the road. Something you can say about this game, it's in Philadelphia. These teams are both in Pennsylvania. It's not going to be that big of a home field advantage for the Eagles. I think the Steelers fans are going to show out very good in this game.
I just don't see that happening. Well, I think there's something more to the A.J. Brown comments than with him retracting statements than Eagles fans would like to believe. They seem to try to be downplaying it. I think there's something real there where he's a little upset his stats aren't quite where he wants them to be, right next to Jamar Chase and the Justin Jeffersons and the CeeDee Lambs of the world. But I think the Steelers are not going to be able to get enough going on offense versus this Eagles offense, which is playing at a very high level.
Seahawks hosting the Packers. And these teams are kind of interesting too because you got the Packers flying by on the seat of their pants. Can't beat the top tiers in the NFC. Kind of fraudulent, kind of getting lucky in these games. You got the Seahawks, have not been lucky this year. A few bad, close, competitive losses and who have really caught fire defensively over the past month. I'm done picking against Seattle in these types of games. They have proven me wrong one too many times. I think their defense really steps up in a big way. Their front seven playing at a high level thanks to Laird Williams, completely eating everybody in the run game. I think they pick off Jordan Love. I think they pressure him. I think they hinder Josh Jacobs. The Packers receivers, all 17 of them, and their unique talents and skills and high ceilings, not going to really get going. Maybe you get a little Christian Watson magic here and there, a little Kraft magic here and there, but I am not optimistic. I don't think the Packers offense travels well. I don't think it's going to perform well in this game. I think Seattle Seahawks are just going to do too much offensively and too much defensively to lose this game. The one way they will lose is the right side of that offensive line, which I've harped on about for a long period of time. It's terrible. It's always been terrible. And I am proven right every time they give up a sack.
Did you pick the Seahawks and Packers to lose?
No, I picked the Seahawks to win. I say if they do lose, it's going to be because the right side of their offensive line gets absolutely stomped. I'm going to say it's not going to happen as much this game because the Packers front seven's lackluster, but I got the Seahawks winning.
I like both of these teams, but I'm not in love with either of these teams. I think the Packers, they have a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. Their secondary has been playing at an extremely high level this season with the addition of Xavier McKinney. Over recent weeks, the Seahawks team has proved me wrong in a lot of ways. Their defense has been consistently getting stops. They've been getting enough done offensively. They have two very good running backs. If Kenneth Walker's not able to play this week, we've seen Zach Charbonnet dominate when Kenneth Walker is not healthy. So I think the Seahawks, they're playing better and more consistent right now at this point in the year. I think the Packers have some players I may like in totality better than the Seahawks, but I think the Seahawks win this one as well.
Yeah, I think it is going to have to be one on the ground because in the past game, as I mentioned, O-line's not good. J.S. Hintz had a very good season, but him, Metcalf, and Lockett are going to be fighting an uphill battle against that Packers secondary. If you wouldn't mind, I'm going to lead into this next one. I'm going to go ahead and cut the line. I'll let you do the final game of the week. Just a little.
Ooh, Falcons-Raiders.
Falcons-Raiders, man. A dynamic matchup. Our pal Reese Watkins is going to be watching that one on the edge of his seat. Vikings hosting the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears have not won a game on the road this year. Thomas Brown, his coaching style is falling apart. The interim head boost did not happen.
Interim head boost.
The interim head coaching boost did not happen with him. The Bears just keep losing. Embarrassed by the 49ers on the road, and they're about to be embarrassed again. That little magic Caleb Williams pulled off to drag the Vikings game to overtime, that was cute. That was nice. It's not happening again. The Bears offense had 10 points through 3.5 quarters last time they played Minnesota. That's going to be the result for the entirety of the game. Minnesota's defense is going to stone this man with rocks, boulders, pebbles, stones. It's not going to be a fun time for him in the backfield. He's going to get blitzed to hell and back. His receivers are not going to be able to get enough separation in the limited time they have to give Caleb Williams the help he needs to escape this Vikings pass rush. Andrew Van Ginkel will not be denied. Pat Jones will not be denied. Dallas Turner will not be denied. Harrison Phillips, I'm feeling a good performance from the big man on the inside. He will not be denied. Offensively for the Vikings, Sam Darnold is coming off the best game of his career against the Atlanta Falcons. And while I don't think the looks will be as easy, he is going to find Jordan Addison, Hawkinson, and Aaron Gordon if the Bears insist on quadra-teaming Justin Jefferson like they did last week. They are more than happy to hold him to 2-3 catches and accept the L if it means JJ does not hit the gritty on them in the end zone. whatever. Enjoy your L, enjoy your statistical victory. Minnesota is going to be celebrating their win and Detroit's loss as they get right back neck and neck with the Lions for the 1 seed in the NFC.
Unless you believe in a delayed interim head coaching boost, I don't really see a way you can pick this Bears team to win. It is an away game for them. They have been bad on the road this year. I've lost complete faith in their ability to win games. Maybe late in the game they get a touchdown here, there. Instead of losing by 3 scores, they lose by 8 points, or they lose by 10 points and make it a little bit respectable. But early in the game, this Bears team just does not get things going. Thomas Brown clearly is unable to handle play calling duties and head coaching duties. Caleb Williams, he's hot, then extremely cold. He's hot for a little bit, then he's extremely cold for even longer. And they're playing a Vikings team that is one of the best coached teams in the NFL, looking to compete still for the 1 seed in the NFC. So I think the Vikings win.
Not going to be close.
Falcons, Raiders, last game of the week, second Monday night game. I don't know how many people are going to be watching this game outside of maybe Falcons fans and Raiders fans. Desmond Ridder, he's not getting his revenge game. This Raiders team, devoid of talent. They're tanking for whichever quarterback they think is going to change their franchise. Brock Bowers, maybe he has 7 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown, but that's not going to be enough. Just not enough talent on this Raiders team. And I said it with a few other teams, but you have to imagine the Falcons slide has to stop eventually. Kirk Cousins has to have another good game eventually, where Drake London gets things going again. We know they at least have a very solid run game with both of the backs they have in their backfield, so the Falcons will win.
Predicting a Bijan masterclass this game. I think he gets force-fed the ball because they have lost some faith in Kirk Cousins. And if they really want Kirk to bounce back, they are going to have to give him 2nd and short, 3rd and short plays he can excel at. He can hit checkdowns. And if the defense really cheats up to crowd the box to stop Bijan, to stop Algier in his 5.5 yards a carry, then he can open it up over the top. Big game from Bijan against the Raiders defense. Desmond Ridder, I feel bad for him in a way. I think he got thrown into a bad situation last year with Arthur Smith as the Falcons head coach. And really, that O-line was not as good as it is now. Tough spot for a young quarterback, but come on. He ain't bouncing back. He ain't getting things cooking with Brock Bowers. He ain't doing anything with this run game, this offensive line, this coaching staff. Antonio Pierce, the Arizona State Sun Devils only got better after firing him. So what does that tell you? And I'm also picking the Falcons to win.
That has been our Week 15 predictions. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe, use code Thicc on Underdog. Bonus cash up to $1,000, and we'll see you in the next one.